Hey 皆さん、It's Arthur. IU-Connect のアーサーです。今回の動画をご覧いただき誠にありがとうございます。初めての方は Welcome to IU-Connect。以前からご覧になっている方は Welcome back. I'm so happy you watched another video. あなたが実際に使える英語力を身につけて世界に飛び出すように、今回の動画は外国人とのインタビューをお届けしたいと思います。In the past, we did interviews with international people in Tokyo. でも今のウイルスの事情でそれがちょっと難しくなりました。なので今回の外国人とのインタビューはCamblyの先生でやりたいと思いました。Camblyとは僕がおすすめするオンラインマンツーマン英会話です。他にもいろんなマンツーマン英会話があるのですが、僕の個人的な経験では、Camblyの講師の質の方が全然いいです。I was really surprised at how nice many of the teachers are. And in this interview, we talked about a lot of interesting things.今回のインタビューのメインのトピックスは日本人の英語についてどう思っているかっていうことです。But we talk about some other things too. あなたはCamblyを使ってみたいと思っている場合はぜひ IU-Connect の紹介コードをご利用ください。You'll get some extra free minutes to try and you can talk with different people. IU-Connect の紹介コードはこれ。there it is. There's right there.これからもCamblyを使って外国人の方とたくさんインタビューをしたいと思っているの場合は、特に聞いてほしいことがあれば、ぜひコメント欄で残してください。If there's something you want me to ask the teachers, to ask the international people, please leave your question in the comment box below. 参考にします。And with that, let's get started with the interviews. Before that, I was wondering if you can introduce yourself.
Yeah,
and
I was
then
going
also,
to say. Okay.
Yeah, introduce yourself and also kind of share your connection with Japan a little bit.
Okay, that would be great. So let me start by saying my name is Joseph Joshua. I usually always say you can call me Joe. So much so that every time I say that, I feel like I'm singing a song.
So tell me, I saw that you mentioned Japan in your profile.
Yeah.
So what's your connection with Japan?
Actually, they were the first set of students I ever had to teach.
Okay.
Japanese.
On Cambly or?
Not on Cambly. I mean, ever when I started teaching online.
Okay.
They were the first set of people I had to teach. I remember my first student's name is Kota. Very young,
Kota.
happy. Yes, a very young, happy boy. I'm no longer working with that company now. That was how I got attached to Japanese students, from that company and onwards.
Okay. Cool. And so let's get into the questions.
Okay.
Let's start with the question about Japanese people's English ability. So let me ask you, I know you've probably talked with people from many different countries, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the countries of people that you've taught?
South Korea, Saudi Arabia, Japan, Brazil, Poland.
Okay. So out of all those five, right? How do Japanese people's English ability compare to other countries? You can be honest. It's okay.
Okay. Most of them, it depends on the level. Most Japanese people that I've met know the grammar. Their problem is how to say it, how to pronounce it, how to be confident to speak with a native speaker because they usually are quite tensed when they hear the word native speaker.
So how is that compared to, let's say, people from Brazil, for example?
Brazilians kind of talk and ask you, is this correct? This answer is it correct? And they talk and they say, oh, this one is it correct? Oh, I thought I should have used this one. Oh, why do I have to use this one? That's the way they kind of learn. Or sometimes they join you to read and they speak along. For Japanese students, for the elderly ones, they mostly would tell you, please, if I have any corrections, you could type it in the chat box for me so I could go over it. If I make any mistake in my pronunciation, could you please write it for me? Which I find to be very polite, And for the kids, for those who are outspoken, would prefer you write as well as tell them. Not like stop them when you're talking, but tell them because most times they need some sort of affirmation. They're not so sure. And for those who are quite shy, you would have to find a way to, incorporate it to their speech. So they say it again and kind of ask them to say what they said again. Then you write it for them so they can go over it. So I think generally Japanese people would usually request. They're the ones who usually are on the request part for you to write down their corrections and all that. Brazilians, on the other hand, would ask you while speaking.
Okay. So that's very interesting. So you're saying that Japanese people in particular will ask you to write down the notes so that they can review.
Yes, they could review. Yes.
Right. So do you have any idea why that is?
I would say maybe because, as I told you, most of them tell me they learn grammar. They learn grammar in school. They do much of learning of grammar. So I feel like they've gotten accustomed to reading. I mean, going through this particular set of notes again and again. Okay, I remember what he said. I feel that's what it is. So maybe they feel much more comfortable going through their mistakes after the class and probably trying to cross-check with what they know and see maybe how to best correct themselves. Yeah.
Right. So I think that's a really big part of it. You said that a big issue with lots of Japanese people is confidence.
Yes.
They're afraid of making mistakes or something.
Exactly.
So how would you encourage a student to not be shy, not be afraid of making mistakes?
Honestly, I usually tell them to make as many mistakes as they can.
Okay.
Yes, because in my experience, I usually tell them learning language is quite the hardest thing, and it's also the easiest thing. It's hard if you are trying to be perfect at it every time. It's easy if you're trying to learn from your mistakes every time. That's what I usually tell them. So I tell them, let's just make as many mistakes as possible and let's learn from them. So if we're not making the same mistakes tomorrow, it means we have other problems to deal with, right? So we take care of those problems and we could actually monitor your progress, That's how I tell them. And so eventually they get comfortable.
That's good. That's actually, I agree with you on that. So I just want to say, minasan, I haven't paid Josh to agree with me, but that's what he's doing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Thanks,
it was a great pleasure meeting you today.
Yeah. Talk to you next time.
I hope so. See you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you and bye.
Let's get started. So first, can you tell me a little bit about your background, how you started English teaching, and then how did you start English teaching on Cambly?
Well, I've been a wordsmith all my life, and for most of my working life, I have been an editor, as a matter of fact, not so much a teacher, but an editor and writer. But in the end of 2014, I decided that I would like to do a CELTA course, and so that I would add a string to my bow. And I've always enjoyed language, and I thought it would be fun to teach English. And now that I've done it, I wish I had done it many, many years earlier, because I really enjoy English teaching. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, so let's get into the questions for today. Have you taught Japanese students before?
Well, yes, I have taught Japanese students. Yes, sometimes a group of students come over to New Zealand, which is my country, and they have a 3-week English camp, right? Yes, so they're usually high school students that come for a short time. Yeah.
How are Japanese people's English ability compared to people from other countries?
Well, as I say, I haven't done a lot of Japanese students, and the ones that I have tend to be fairly well advanced. I mean, they may be better than average, perhaps. So they have not shown any particular difficulties that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I know there are some people who are really, really good at English, and their life's goal is to be good at English, and so when they talk with people, they speak really well. I've had students like that before.
Yes.
But personality-wise, is there some sort of unique personality trait in your Japanese students compared to people from other countries?
Oh, they're very polite. They're not pushy at all, and I think this is part of the Japanese culture. I've noticed it's a very polite culture. People are bowing to each other all the time, and you meet and you bow and you depart and you bow. and they're very conscious of etiquette and relationships, I think, between different levels of people.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, you're very welcome.
Okay. All right. See you.
Sayonara.
Sayonara. Right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I guess we can get started. Can you tell me a little bit about your background and how you got into teaching English?
Yes. After college, which I attended in Massachusetts, like you.
Oh, cool.
You're from Massachusetts, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
After college, I did about a 2-year stint as a bookkeeper, but it wasn't very social. It wasn't a lot of human interaction. And I enjoyed bookkeeping, but I thought maybe 2 hours a day would be nice, but not all day. So I was also interested in foreign languages. So I looked into opportunities abroad, and I found a good opportunity with an offer from Japan. So I went to Japan, and I worked there for a long time. And then I just continued my... initially, it was in Kanagawa. That was my first position, but I've worked also Kanagawa, Iwate, Chiba, and Ibaraki.
Wow, lots of places.
So a few different places, yeah. So now, after 24 years in Japan, I now have about 3 years in Ecuador. And I like the expatriate lifestyle, and I like multilinguistic situations. So
yeah, well, that's really interesting. You spent a really long time in Japan. So let me ask you, how do you think the average Japanese person's English ability is compared to your other students on Cambly or your students in Ecuador?
Right, yeah. I would say the average Japanese is a little below average. And one of the reasons is simply because the trade language of English is a European language, and their native language is a Oriental language. So there's a lot more effort to learn a European language for them. If you have a person from Spain or France or Germany, it's much easier for those people to learn English because the language has more similarity.
Okay. Do you feel like public education of English in Japan has an effect on it, or not so much?
Oh, it does have an effect, and I saw a significant improvement. In my early years in Japan, English was taught only from Chuichi.
Chuichi, yeah.
And it was taught by teachers who usually had never studied abroad. They had taken an English course in college. They had become a teacher, but they had never had a real significant immersion experience in a foreign country. In our country, the foreign language teachers have to study abroad, usually their junior year. The USA foreign language teacher typically studies abroad one of their 4 or 5 years in their undergraduate program. Junior high teachers don't do that. It's not in their training. And it was quite a shock when I first found that you didn't study abroad. How do you speak the language? That was my next. How do you expect to speak English if you didn't study abroad 1 year? Yeah.
Well, let's start with Japanese English education. How has English education in Japan changed, in your opinion?
Yeah, they have introduced English classes from younger and younger age. There was a shift from Chuichi to Shogakko Gonensei. And then when I left in 2016, they were starting from Shogakko Sannensei. And I noticed, by the time I left Japan, I noticed that R and L, TH and S were not a big problem anymore. Before, in the 90s, when you said a word with R or L, they couldn't understand what you said. And when they spoke it, also, you couldn't catch. Did you say thrill or, another word? What did you say? But now, because of starting at a younger age, the kids are picking up the correct pronunciation much better.
Okay. Interesting. All
All
right,
right.
man. Have a good day.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. So, how was it? いかがでしたか？お役に立てたらとても嬉しいです。I hope it was helpful for you to learn English and connect with the world. Like I shared before, これからいろんなインタビュー動画を作りたいと思っているので、特に先生とか外国人の方に聞いてほしいことがあれば、ぜひコメント欄で質問をしてください。I'll share that question with the other people.As always, enjoy your English adventures. 一緒に世界とつながりましょう。See you in the next video. 英語を学んでも外国人の直面したら、頭が真っ白になり、言葉が出てこないという問題を経験したことありませんか？どうしてそうなるんでしょうか？特別な動画でご紹介します。You can see the video over here in the playlist. Please check it out. お役に立てたらとても嬉しいです。応援してます。